My name is Francisco Bernal. This video is going to introduce the functionalities and the workflow interaction of the users with the prototype that has been developed and obtained as a result of the thesis, internal design validation attestation in BIM models, a combination of semantic web technologies, and BIM Collaboration Format. This thesis, which I have presented as a result of my master's degree studies in construction management and engineering, was carried out at Eindhoven University of Technology in collaboration with the structural engineering company Eindhoven University. But before showing the prototype in action, I would like to explain in short what it does. The purpose of the prototype is to allow the communication between engineers through Pcf in combination with the semantic web technology, all for the purpose of internal design validation of the BIM model. In this way, Pcf information, which was usually modeled based on an XSS schema, would be modeled as RDF triples instead, based on an ontology. These triples will be stored in a triple store or RDF repository to be later retrieved using the appropriate Sparkle queries. These queries, which are predefined in the buttons of the prototype, retrieve and show the BCF information as text or by coloring the building elements according to their Pcf status. Moreover, the workflow that is suggested includes both the structural engineer and the BIM modeler as the main actors exchanging feedback for the validation of the BIM model. Firstly, the structural engineer is revising the BIM model for the first time, pointing out issues or marking elements as closed, which means that the element has been validated. Secondly, the BIM modeler will revise the model based on the BCF issues created previously by the structural engineer, in order to solve them. Lastly, the structural engineer will revise the BIM model again to validate what the BIM modeler has been doing according to his indications. So, once this is clear, we can start with the demonstration video. First thing we can do as a structural engineer is to create and link BCF topics to the building object. And this can be done by clicking on the Create New BCF RDF button. Once we click the button, the BCF interface appears. This interface allows the structural engineer to fill in the necessary information so that the BIM modeler understands what is wrong about the building element. An important feature is that explanatory documents can be linked to the building element as well. And the link to these documents, which are being stored in an FTP server, can be later retrieved using the appropriate Sparkle queries, but we will see that later. After the necessary information has been filled in, by accepting and closing the BCF interface, we are creating the RDF triples. And we can actually check through the prototype that the created information is linked to the selected building object. However, as a structural engineer, it is not all about creating BCF issues. The prototype also allows the user to validate elements which do not require any change. Once we click the Mark as Closed button, what we are doing is creating a short version of the usual BCF, which basically indicates that the BCF status of that object is closed. Now we put ourselves in the position of the BIM model. First thing we need to do is to check the BCF status of all the building elements. By clicking the Show Open Objects button, the building element will be colored in red if the BCF status is active, orange if the BCF status is resolved, yellow if there is no BCF information, or green if the BCF status is closed. However, as BIM modelers, we are only interested in the BCF topics that have been assigned to us. For that reason, by clicking on the Show Assign Objects button and introducing our name, the prototype filters the visualization of building elements, showing only the ones with a BCF topic that is open and assigned to us. Coming back to the explanatory documents that I mentioned previously, the BIM modeler can access that information by just copying the link and pasting it in the web browser. After the credentials have been introduced, the explanatory information related to the BCF topic can be visualized instantly, which actually saves the time of looking for that explanatory sketch in the office or asking the structural engineer about an explanation of the issue. So, once the BIM modeler has updated the BIM model in the appropriate design software tool, what he will do through the prototype is to update the BCF status to resolved and create a comment to indicate to the structural engineer that the issue has been solved. Continuing with the workflow, the structural engineer is back to validate the work of the BIM modeler. To that end, he starts visualizing the Pcf status of the object and searching for resolved issues. In case the requested change has been implemented correctly, then all he will do is mark it as closed. On the other hand, in case there is still something wrong, or the changes still do not comply with the client's requirements, the structural engineer will update the BCF status back to active and add the necessary comments, so that the BIM modeler can update the BIM model correctly during his next revision. Last but not least, I would like to introduce as well the backwards and external functionalities that the prototype provides to the users. The first button, called Download RTF Context, allows the user to download the existing BCF information in the RTF repository as a BCF zip file. To check that the conversion works, the BCF Manager tool developed by Kubus is used to open the BCF zip file. Once the file is open, we can see that the issues created in the prototype appear listed as topics as well as the comments that are related to these topics. Moreover, if we edit the topics externally, for example by adding a comment, these changes can be updated back in the repository through the second button in the prototype. After the appropriate changes have been done and the new BCF zip file has been saved, the new BCF information can be uploaded back to the RTF repository by using the Select BCF Here button. By just selecting the BCF zip file again, the new comments and the BCF status are added to the respective RTF contexts, updating like this the information in the RTF repository. So if we now visualize the status of the objects in the prototype, we can see that the color of the edited topic is changed and the new comment that was added in the BCF Manager appears when we check the object status. This is the end of the video. I hope you liked it. Of course, you can share the video if you found it interesting, and for further information you can find the full version of my thesis available at my LinkedIn profile. Thanks for watching.